Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Monday, October 7th, 2024 Kitty Hawk Town Council meeting to order. 6 o'clock p.m. We're in the Kitty Hawk Town Hall and Smith Room. I hope everyone is doing well. Thank you for those who are joining us here tonight and those in person. Normally, next we go to the moment of silence and pledge of allegiance, and we still are. But during the moment of silence, everybody knows the western part of our state has suffered some tremendous losses and still are, and we'll be dealing with that for some time. That could have very well have been us. We are very fortunate. The good Lord has looked out for us. So what I'd like to ask you to do when we do go into a moment of silence, please remember those folks in your thoughts and your prayers. Now, if you're able to stand, please join us in a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, everybody.
Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to add that there's a Cat 5 about to hit the west side of Florida.
Yeah, it is. Thank you, Dave. Okay, Council, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda, please.
So moved.
Motion made by David, second.
Second.
Second by Charlotte. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Presentation by Outer Banks Visitors Bureau. Jeff, you coming up first, or Lee, or? Both of you come up. How about that?
Either one.
Yes.
Either one.
Wait, what?
You can use, both of you can have a mic if you want to.
And speak directly into the microphone, please. Yes, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Town Council. On June 26, we introduced the Outer Banks Promise. The Promise is a destination pledge. It encourages responsible behaviors and helps to deepen respect for our local culture and natural environment. You may recall that over the last couple of years, the Tourism Board embarked on an ambitious effort to develop a long-range tourism management plan. The LRTMP lays out a 10-year roadmap that balances responsible tourism growth with the need to manage its negative impacts. I'd like to thank Councilman Hines for his work on the Dare County Tourism Board, currently serving as the board's vice chairman. And thanks also to Mayor Pro Tem Pruitt, who served on the board earlier and served as chair. We appreciate your leadership and your involvement in this effort. Once the LRTMP was in our hand, the Tourism Board appointed a 22-member special committee to basically bring the plan to life. The Outer Banks Promise, the destination pledge, is one of the group's early accomplishments. And now to share a little more about the promise, I'd like to introduce Jeff Schwarzenberg. Jeff is a Community Engagement Manager at the Visitors Bureau. This is a new position at the Bureau and another recommendation found within the LRTMP. I'm really happy to have Jeff on the team, so happy to turn it over to him now.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Lee. Good evening, everyone. As we prepared to launch the Outer Banks Promise a few months ago, we collaborated with the local cinematographer Nick McLean to capture Outer Banks residents in their element to help bring the promise to life visually. The result is a powerful 1-minute video that we'd like to share with you now if possible.
But my audience.
If not, I can narrate.
The Outer Banks is an amazing natural wonder and has supported a special way of life. Let's do our part and take care of it.
Guys, we're having an audio issue this evening.
The Outer Banks is an amazing natural wonder and has supported a special way of life. Let's do our part
Is there
and
not
take care of
is there
it.
not a way to put the microphone
promise to.
towards the laptop
Discover
volume
this land of
itself?
history and inspiration with a spirit of kindness and appreciation.
Video is planning to walk through with the 7 promise lines.
Let's turn what ifs
Into
let's be prepared.
Technology is going to throw your way. So the Outer Banks Promise was basically created with the mindset of 4 key principles: kindness, responsibility, respect, and safety. The first promise line of 7 is discover this land of history and inspiration with a spirit of kindness and appreciation. We all need to appreciate where we live, the history and the inspiration that was created here from the Lost Colony to the Wright brothers and forward to today. The second one is turn what ifs into let's be prepared. Basically, let's be prepared for all different types of situations that can be thrown our way. And I will preface this by saying this isn't just geared towards visitors. This is meant for everybody in our community, including our residents. The third key promise line is pack it in, pack it out, leave no trace. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. The fourth is wander with wonder, sticking to roads and paths. I know the town of Kitty Hawk has some amazing trails and paths. Basically, again, kind of tying into that safety aspect of don't wander where you shouldn't be, but enjoy the beautiful surroundings that we have here. Love the beach, respect the ocean is number 5. Again, piggybacking on what the county has created and done a great job in promoting. Number 6 is be a wildlife star, observing animals safely from afar. Again, our wildlife was here before us. Let's respect those creatures and keep our distance and enjoy them from afar. Number 7, last but not least, is support local. Small acts have big impacts. I think we're a community that is blessed to have so many small, locally owned businesses. And I think we do a great job of supporting those businesses. But again, a reminder on all these promise lines is certainly can't be overstated. So in a nutshell, you can find that video at obxpromise.com. So basically what this is, as I said, is we're asking people, both residents and visitors, to be better stewards of the Outer Banks and make a promise to protect this place. By identifying those things that I talked about, they're areas of what makes our place special and why it's worth protecting. And again, our small actions will have big, big impacts over time. We launched the promise, as Lee mentioned, in late June, and we're still in the early stages of awareness and education. Over the past few months, we've activated our marketing channels. We've launched grassroots efforts at our welcome centers and at local events, again, to educate the community, not just visitors, but residents as well. So as we move forward, how can you, our community, our neighbors, help to show support and spread the word about the Outer Banks Promise? Well, the easiest thing you can do is visit obxpromise.com and make your promise by filling out an online form. It's super simple, it literally just takes a couple seconds, but again, it's that show of support. It's taking what a lot of destinations have, which are just words, and here we're putting it into action. We're encouraging more than just reading a set of guidelines. We didn't want this to be a finger-pointing mandate of, hey, welcome to the Outer Banks, but while you're here, don't do this, don't do that. This is more about shining that light on what makes this place special. So obxpromise.com is where you can find more information and make the promise online. If you're affiliated with a Dare County business, association, organization, or municipality, you can also consider supporting in a couple of other ways. One is including a link to the promise page on your website, crafting a blog, social media post, or including the promise in an upcoming e-newsletter, sharing the promise video on your website or social media, and making the promise as a group and allowing us to capture and share that photo opportunity with the world as a collective show of support. Outer Banks Blue, Hilton Garden Inn, Outer Banks Health are just a few community partners who have recently stepped up and shown their support in that way, which is tremendous, and we look forward to many more down the line. We also created a partner toolkit that's available at obxpromise.com. Provides copy, links, images, and more, really to make it easy to plug and play and share this information. Again, the more support we receive in amplifying this message, the greater the impact's going to be. This is definitely not a short-term approach or a quick fix campaign. It's a key strategic step in our long-term commitment that the Visitors Bureau, the Tourism Board, and our special committee has made as we explore responsible ways to manage both the positive and negative impacts of tourism in our county. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share information about the promise. We always invite folks to reach out to us. You know, the Long-Range Tourism Management Plan is a community plan. It was created by the community. It's going to continue to be implemented by the community. So we welcome any kind of feedback, thoughts, suggestions, either tonight or in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff Lee. Council, any questions for Jeff or Lee? Thank you for your part in this too, David, on the Visitors Bureau.
I think these guys, they're the ones that...
They're the ones that do it. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think people underestimate the value and the engagement that the Visitors Bureau puts into this county.
Sorry about the audio too, guys.
I like like seeing him scramble.
He did it well.
Actually, I feel compelled to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe because of the tourism dollars that are spent in Dare County, each resident saves $3,800 a year in taxes, is that?
Yep, it's more like 3,900, but yeah, that's. far
Each
and away
resident.
Far and away the leader in the state.
So it's a very important organization. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, public comment. Lawrence, anyone signed up for public comment, please?
Yes, we have Goodman Sackers.
Okay. Come on up, ma'am. Please, 3 minutes, please, and speak directly to the mic. Please make sure we can hear and you're recorded.
Okay, I'll try. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening.
My name is Deborah Corbell Stafford, and I live at 1211 West Kitty Hawk Road. I am here tonight to voice my concerns about the subdivision on 4324 Corinda Lane. Let me first tell you that I am not against development. I just think that we need to grow as a community responsibly. This property is 2.96 acres. To divide this property into 5 lots seems a little excessive to me. I believe that 3 nice lots would be more reasonable. If you have 5 lots on each, if you approve 5 lots, each lot can put up an ADU if it's meets the requirements, and that would mean 10 units on this subdivision. My concerns are traffic. It is hard to get on Kitty Hawk Road now. There is no turnaround on Corinda Lane. There is low-lying areas there where there's water. When we have rain, the water rises just like any place else. And I also think that there would be an issue with water pressure. The other thing is I have to ask you is how many septic tanks can Kitty Hawk handle? I get enough water in my yard the way it is, my yards. I believe that this development will cause more standing water in my yards. I think the town did a survey, I think it was early this year or late last year, wanting to know the concerns of the town. One of them was growth. The town council needs to look at growth and how we are going to go forward and plan for the future with development. I think it is time that the council looks at the size of lots and the density on these lots. I believe the density amendment really needs to be looked at. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren, next.
Yes,
Come on up, please.
Good evening,
Good evening.
everybody. I live at 1022 West Kitty Hawk Road, and I'm also here speaking in opposition of the Corinda subdivision. A lot of what I've written references exactly what she said. I feel like in VR1, which is supposed to be low-density residential, that 5 lots in that almost 3-acre area is excessive. Earlier, we were really focused on a text amendment that was passed to help slow density development in Kitty Hawk, and I feel like maybe this text amendment is being interpreted in a way that is seemingly okay for this development, and it's not. I've lived in the village for 17 years, and it doesn't take an environmental engineer or a scientist to see the way the water stands and what floods now that used to not flood. And that's only in the 17 years I've been here. I can't imagine what some of the other people like Mr. Tillett have seen in his lifetime, or Mr. Pruitt, in the village. So that's one of my main concerns in this. And in January, the town of Kitty Hawk hosted a flood informational workshop. You asked our input, and we gave you the input. People let you know what is flooding now that didn't flood before. I don't think a high-density development in a low-density area will help this problem at all. And also, we need to think about, like Mayor Garris referenced, begin the meeting what our fellow citizens in the western part of the state are going through right now, and that we are very lucky and we are as easily susceptible to that. I mean, even when it's not a major weather event, what floods back in Kitty Hawk now is sometimes just scary. Not to think about when it was a major weather event like 2011 when Irene came through here. So when we're looking at the insurance situation now, I recently, and I'm sure other people in this room in Kitty Hawk, have had to find new homeowners insurance because so many companies are dropping out. FEMA is now making new recommendations for the National Flood Insurance Program, which will prohibit coverage in new areas that are high risk, and also will cancel premiums in places that are continually paying out. I feel like we are in a situation in the village, we are both of those. Not to mention the fact that we constantly hear, sorry, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Lauren?
That's it, thank you.
Anyone else like to speak at public comment about any topic tonight? Anybody else? All right, let the record show no one else chose to speak.
I guess I got something to say.
Come on up, come on up.
I've got my 40-year pin in Kitty Hawk. And I've seen it go from my quiet little fishing town to an extension of Virginia Beach. And I left Virginia Beach for a reason. And I ended up here. But regardless, I live on Corona Lane. And if you go down Corona Lane, everybody's house is nice and pretty. It's not a cluster of houses here, another cluster of houses there. Everything looks proportional or whatever, and aesthetically pleasing to the eye. Coming, pulling in to 5 houses, I just don't see it. And to go back to the water problem, where are they getting the water from? Are they going to put in a water main down Corona Lane? Because there is not one. Are they going to put in a fire hydrant? Because there is not one. What are we going to do with all the trash cans? I can tell you what I do with my one. I keep wood chips in for my smoker. I carry my trash out. Other neighbors have a trash can at the end right on the road. So now what are these 5 houses doing? We're just going, we have no refuge pickup. We have no real fire protection. Because if we do have a fire back in there, we're going to have to run close down Kitty Hawk Road when they hook to the hydrant. It's on the opposite side of the street. So I don't know, you got more problems than people are really looking at. And I hope you don't cowtail to a developer. Yeah, we can stop this, and I'm not the genius that knows how to, but something needs to be done. If not, we're going to just look like down the road. And then again, I ain't got that much longer around here, so anyway. But I'm just looking at the future. I just don't want to see it go that far down here. Have a good evening.
Thanks, sir.
Don't beat the buzzer.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else like to speak?
I'm getting set. Can you ask what his name is?
Sir, what was your full name for the record, please, sir?
Richard. K-U-P-E-T-Z.
Did you get that, Lauren?
I sure did.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Oh, they don't work.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is John Stone, and since 2012, my wife and 4 children have been, we've been very blessed to live in Kitty Hawk on Windgrass Circle. And I'm talking to you this evening to express my appreciation for you taking up the text amendment on the Soundwater District and the pier length. appreciate you guys considering it. I was here with my son in the August planning board meeting, and he's actually better at the testimony than I am, since he's the one responsible for dragging our boat through the sand when the wind blows from the east or from the northeast, and we're not able to use our pier. And we have a beautiful waterway, beautiful recreation here in Kitty Hawk. We're blessed with it, and when the wind is blowing from the northeast or the east, it really limits the residents' access to the sound. And actually, the worst scenario is if you're out on the water for the day and the wind kicks up and you're trying to get back to your home and your pier, and you're stuck out in the sound because you can't get to your boat dock or your boat lift. So, I'm expressing my appreciation. I hope you guys will consider that this evening. Item 8. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much. Anyone else like to speak?
Sure.
Come on up, sir.
I don't want to be negative because it's a good meeting going.
Thank you. Please. So, Mr. Stafford? Mr. Stafford, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I just want to verify some of the other stuff about the water. You know, we have a waterfront property. We have a mosquito ditch in the backyard, right? That was built to control mosquitoes by our forefathers. And of course, now it is a mosquito breeder, right? That's how things change over the years. And, you know, a lot of the septic is now running into the creek. So I just want the council to be aware of what's already in place. It's going to keep growing. And I don't want to pick on anybody, but, you know, when I wanted to buy my lot at the end of the road, it was a no. You maybe I'll let you divide it in half. It was 5 acres. I was told no. We built a house on 20,000 square feet, and we had to argue for coverage and how much concrete. You know, I put a concrete driveway in. It's like, oh, you can't have that much coverage. You know, and then we get all done. A personal story. Oh, you're 3 inches too tall. How did that happen? The inspector was out here every week, you know. But anyway, variance? Oh no, we're not going to give you a variance. I had to cut 3 inches off my roof. Okay, so a lot of things we got to look at, but you know, do we change the rules, or if somebody makes an honest mistake, do we give a little bit, give a little variance, maybe? So just look at the overall picture of things. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak tonight? Anyone? Okay, Lauren, let the record show no one else chose to speak. Consent agenda. Council, I need a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Motion made by David.
Second.
Second by Dylan. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Thank you. We had no items removed from the consent agenda. Item 8A. Council, I need a motion to go into public hearing, please.
So moved.
Motion made by Jeff. Second.
Second.
Second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. All right, we're in public hearing. Rob?
All right, this hearing is for a proposed text amendment to section 42-360, the Sound Waters District. It's kind of a two-part proposal. The first takes the language that we have in place for private, community, or commercial piers and boat slips and reclassifies it from a special use permit to permitted use. As you guys know, the special use permits are quasi-judicial, fact-based evidentiary hearing, whereas the permitted use is more of an administrative decision where an application would come in showing that they meet the requirements laid out in the ordinance, and it would be approved at a staff level rather than holding a hearing at the planning board and town council. The second part of it proposes to lengthen or extend the maximum length that we permit as far as zoning goes from currently it is 100 feet for a private residential pier or docking facility and 200 feet for like a community pier or commercial pier. The proposal is to extend that out to 400 feet. Kind of the reason this got started is not too long ago, I think it was the beginning of the year, we had a variance request and ultimately approved for replacing a 100-foot pier to go 300 feet because the existing 100 feet, I think at the end of the pier was about 10 inches of water. It was just not enough for them to get their boat slip in, effectively use the dock facility for what the purpose was for. After that variance, at the end of the Board of Adjustment meeting, had a request from one of the board members to explore this as a possible text amendment because they could see this becoming a recurring application. And I had 2 other conversations with residents that were asking about the variance process. One application did come in from a third person, but it was withdrawn because their timing of the camera permit was going to expire, so they withdrew that. So it is something that we're seeing more of, or I guess the sedimentation is just kind of infilling in that area. The 400 feet that's proposed was not just kind of plucked out of the air. I was talking with CAMA officials, and 400 feet is what the maximum that they will approve through their general permit. Anything beyond that requires a CAMA major, and just because they allow it as part of their general permit does not mean they're always going to approve 400 feet. They have standards written in that once you exceed 200 feet in length, you have to demonstrate that for every 100 feet of length, past that you'll get another foot of depth in the water. And they also have a standard saying that in a row of properties that all have existing docks and piers, that they will not permit one that extends further out than what the furthest most one is. So it's not automatically rubber stamping 400 feet piers and docks. It's just stating that when somebody has the need to do so, they're not going to have to continually come before the Board of Adjustment or multiple Board of Adjustment variance hearings for the same, the same issue. I guess it was kind of looked at as if you're in a position where you're going to have to keep issuing variances to make usable docks and piers, it might be time to align the ordinance with what the needs are on the ground. That's kind of the background of that one. I will turn it over to council for any questions.
You talk about a foot of depth per 100 feet per camera, correct?
Once you get past that first 200.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I live right there. I mean, I know how bad it is. And the living shoreline, by the way, has also hindered a couple people from as well. Just as I'm sure you're aware. How does that work? You get them out there in a southwest wind? Because you get out there in northeast, you're not going to gain a foot.
I don't know how CAMA looks at it. I think they look at most likely the normal high water, taking into consideration that winds are going to affect it differently. But my guess is that they look at the normal high water level.
So is that measured by if you can gain another foot in those 100-foot horizontal length, then the camera won't allow that 100-foot extension? Is that how I understand that correctly?
So the way I understand it, the general permit, they'll grant up to 200 feet. And then once you go beyond that, if you go another 100 feet out, but you only get, say, 8 inches of depth, they won't approve that, from what I understand.
I got you.
That's what I meant by the wind direction, because northeast, as you know, blows it all out.
Is that the same measuring point as our ordinance?
I believe so, yes.
That would be from the normal high water line?
Right.
Okay.
None of the piers along there are usable in the northeast wind, period. So, Jeff, I think what's the history behind that?
Yeah, there is. The history starts back to when development was going to build a, let's see, I think it was a 500-foot and put a fuel dock at the end of a community development. Yeah, 500, and with a large gazebo and fuel docks, and that's when the council decided that maybe it was time to look into the lengths of the piers, and then that's when they came up with the 100 foot and what was it, the others for the for the commercial. And at that time they felt like, from what I've gathered, I've talked to some of them that were on the board then, that they were pushing out too far into the sound to where it was going to be navigable issues. And also, if it's 400 feet out, where is the private property line? Does that mean that kayakers can't go in between the docks and fish without? It just seems like that they were trying to let everybody share the sound without shoving people further out. The gazebos and all that, they didn't want the loud music for the disturbing the wildlife. And they also, years ago, they didn't allow crab shutters along the sound. The reason were lights. They believed that all the lights sticking out along the Kitty Hawk Bay would cause effects on migratory birds flying in, seeing lights, and choosing not to come to the Outer Banks anymore and heading on to Pea Island like they're pretty much doing anyway. So that was the history, kind of how we got there. But I have a question, Rob. So from what I'm getting, the applicant of this is somebody on the Board of Adjustments. Is that kind of how this is?
No, this is kind of spurred at the suggestion of the Board of Adjustment, recognizing that, and both in conjunction with the 3 or 4 other folks that came to me afterwards, inquiring about a variance because they're either about to build a dock or replace a dock, and 100 feet just doesn't, like, there's no reason for them to build it at 100 feet because they had a few inches of water.
You brought this up, not an applicant, because of the number of requests that have come before. Right.
But usually if we have a request, like an owner wants to do it, he's the one that submits the applicant. And then we decide rather than the plan or bringing an issue for three people want it, it seems like.
Correct. And I think my rationale for it being a variance is supposed to be applied for a unique, peculiar situation. The fact that I had 4 requests about it within a 6-month period shows me it's no longer a peculiar situation. It's becoming fairly common. And to try to align our regulations with what what we're seeing occur.
So if everybody comes and starts asking for a variance on the height restriction, are we gonna go that route?
There's no hardship on building a house.
What are we going to gain as a town by going out 400? What benefit does this do to, the residents of Kitty Hawk, other than the handful of people that have the dock? For the residents in whole, what benefit for us going out? Now, I'm not saying 100, but I think 400 is way too far. Okay. So there could be a happy medium in here, but 400 is a long way. That's a lot of lights out in Kitty Hawk Bay. Have you thought about where we got a canal coming that way and 400 going that way and out that way?
That would be what CAMA looks at. CAMA permits everything that's out of the water. A lot of localities don't have the regulations that we do have. They just let CAMA handle it because it's their jurisdiction. We have our Sound Water District, which is a extraterritorial jurisdiction that a lot of the other coastal communities don't have.
And how far does that extend to? I have that wrote down. That's one of
the Sound Waters District.
How far is our ETG?
1 mile.
And so what does that? So what kind of power of what does that give us?
The ability to put these kind of regulations in an area that is typically under the state jurisdiction.
Okay.
Would that include duck bonds, things to that effect?
Anchoring boats?
Don't believe we do anything.
How about like anchoring boats? Stuff like that. Is that the same?
I think there could be language in there for that.
Okay, just,
You know, we've talked about this before, Jeff, and David brought up shoreline, about a 100-foot pier could shut out from someone's property, and then property on both sides juts out more than the 100-foot pier,
that's right.
right? Yeah.
400 feet of pilings sunk down out there, one after the other, is going to do a lot of damage to that bottom. I can tell you, along the way. And I know camo issues. Is camo going to be there when a commercial fisherman sets a crab pot or a gill net in between there? What happens then? A place that flounder fishermen usually catch them right on that edge.
Once you get past that water's edge, it's no longer the private property, it's public trust.
That's right.
But we see how that works, not too well.
How about a shorter length? As Jeff,
On navigable water, though, everybody owns navigable water if you're on the sound front, unlike a lake where you own to the middle.
But you know as well as I do.
Right.
If I go in between two of these piers at 200 feet and go from one side to the other with a gill net, somebody's they're going to call the law.
No question.
No question. So now you've run a commercial fisherman.
Push them out.
Pushed him out.
Right.
So, you know, there's all sides. Guys in the Northeast or 400 still ain't going to get you there.
Well, I just don't see, and I'm not in disagreement with what you're saying. I mean, I ran a tape at 400 feet just before I got here, just so I could kind of in my mind see compared to where I live in First Flight Ridge, our pier, and a hard northeast wind. I mean, I could walk another
400
before I even touch water. Okay, so, and Councilman Walker lives kind of not that far from me, right there off the other side of Tateway, which is all kind of affected that same way, right? I don't see CAMA permitting most of that area right there anyway at 400 feet, because I don't see how you're going to gain a foot per 100, even in the south, if you're using the average watermark. So I'm in agreement with you, but I don't think 100 it works either.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
No, I don't either, but I don't think 400
I agree.
working either.
I agree.
So, I mean, that's just where I stand. I do understand 100 doesn't really even in a normal tide.
Right.
And I think the council years ago, they did this 100 just to keep you from going out there. You know, what I think more sensible is 200, 250. You know, somewhere 200, somewhere. But as far as 400 out there, I think that's just too far.
Rob, what's the longest period we have in Kitty Hawk now? Is that on this staff report?
Do you have? How about other towns? How about Duck? How far can you go out?
Don't know off the top of my head.
So you got to realize it's only going, I mean, right on the other side of G-Jack, that's where it stops for Kitty Hawk. So we're only talking.
But you see where it's going to end up. It's going to end up right on that edge where people want to go fishing and everything else. I mean,
well, 400 feet is the most that somebody can have without going to the Board of Adjustment. That just cuts the red tape, and you can't go any further than that. But that lady from Elizabeth City is gonna come over here, and she's gonna put her waders on, and she's going out there.
She will
and
too.
She's gonna measure.
She sure will.
If you go out there and 200's all you're gonna get, that's all you're gonna get.
She will wear them waders
You
too.
better hope the wind's coming out of the southwest when she comes.
That's what I'm saying.
So that's, but that just keeps anybody from having to go to the Board of Adjustments.
But see, even that too.
CAMA still tells them how long they can have it.
That's no question, and that's the point I was getting at. No matter what we agree to, they're going to be the final regulator.
And 400 just keeps us from going back to Board of Adjustment.
But that's 205 right there, Rob?
Yep.
Is that the longest one that we?
I don't know, that was just one that
so you're going out twice that far.
But where I'm going with that is, if you see right there, I bet you in the northeast wind, even that, what's that address on Bay Drive, Rob? Does it tell you?
That is
That's a couple down from Councilman Walker's house. That's right.
That is not a current picture.
Yeah, they remodeled it or something, I believe, right? Yeah. So 3518.
That might be Mr. Stone's pier right there.
3518.
Is that yours?
It's, no, I'm a little bit north of that one.
Are you? Okay.
So that's 230, 220, 231.
Right in that area.
And what's that address? Oh, that's
3617 Windgrass.
3617. 31.
All I'm saying is the number we come up with is totally objective, because Cameron is going to come out and say, yes, you can have this, or no, you can't. So it's that 400 feet doesn't mean you're going to get 400 feet.
And that's what I was referring to, once you get around that corner there, like right past my house where that living shoreline is, you know, you're not getting 400 feet right there. Unless it's blowing south, I mean, unless it's blowing 50.
Jeff, as a lifelong waterman, do you think the 400-foot distance would disrupt commercial fishing activities?
I think it's going to disrupt a lot. I think you're going to, recreational, I think one of the pictures I just saw at 400 feet, it looked like two people standing out there fishing, actually.
Yeah.
I wonder.
They stand down there right there in that.
They're standing right in front of that long dock, yeah, right there. See them fishing, or is that buoys? That might be buoys, yeah.
And then it just.
And it looks like waterfowl down here.
It's just a matter of where that is.
It changes so much right in that area that I'm with Jeff.
I just think the light's way out there, just.
I agree with that. I think we can go more than 100, but I think 400 might be a stretch.
All right, keep in mind, we're still in public hearing here.
Rob, you take, for instance, on the corner, if that was to go out, yeah. If any of those were to go out, then that stops navigation into that ditch.
And my guess is Campbell would not permit that for that reason.
No. And if you have a berm, they're not gonna let you mess that up. It's just, they're very, very particular about it.
Rob, can you run a measurement from, say, I don't know, take I can't tell if that's Twitty's property over 2 years. Use one of those. That looks like, man, it might be Vaughn Robinson or something. Run that out. Do you have a way to measure from the end of that? Yeah, there's a living shoreline. So you go either one of those two piers. Do you have a way to measure from the start of that pier to where it ends now, and then show you what 300 feet looks like?
That's about one.
Or even better, go back to the other one you just were at that had 231
Or the one right next
feet.
to it. Yeah, go right there to 400. Look at there, folks.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I see.
That's too.
I don't.
Again, I just want to reiterate, I was putting 400 in not as something that we expect to see, because Cam's not gonna, they don't rubber stamp 400-foot piers. That's just the max that they will do under their general permit.
Without going to a major.
200 is kind of like, you know, their threshold where, like I said, they have to start demonstrating that 1 foot of depth for 100 feet of pier length. But
Drop it back to 300, please. Or 275, or. So we already have one at 231.4 feet, right?
correct.
Okay. Who is that?
You don't. You have one at 300 feet.
In Kitty Hawk?
That was the variance issue.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one that went to variance.
I mean, I'm with you. I don't want to mess with the guys fishing at all. And duck wise, that's gone for the most part anyway, unless you want a homegrown mallard or a bufflehead. But I can tell you what's not working is 100.
All right,
Definitely.
any more questions? If not, we can go back in a regular session for discussion.
I do have another question. What do you think is the number? Because if you go to 200 feet, the next 100 feet is going to be on Elizabeth City waders.
Evidently, he thought 400.
And it has to go to variance.
Correct.
If you do that. If you do 200, it has to go to variance.
Right.
I'm not the expert on that. Like I said, my reasoning for putting it at 400 is because that's the max that CAMA allows under their general permit. So it seemed like a logical tie-in that
Gotcha.
we would allow it to that, and then if it goes beyond it, it requires a variance if you had to get, beyond 400 feet.
Okay. All right. I have no further questions.
Any further questions for Ron?
No, sir.
Okay. If I can get a motion to leave public hearing
So
and get
moved.
back in the regular session. Motion made by David, second.
Second.
Second by Dylan. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're back in regular session. Now, let's get some discussion. If you've got an idea of a different length, or if you want to make a motion, now's the time.
Well, if we have one at 300 already,
I'd say 300.
then leave it at that.
That's a long period.
But Jeff, do you think 300 is going to affect?
I think we should stay, we could go to 200 and then make them go to the variance and let them decide whether it's a place, and then let CAMA decide after that. Let those two boards decide. I think we need to set, what'd you say, 200 is the CAMA one? I mean, that,
After you get to 200, that's when they make you demonstrate that for
right.
300 feet,
So-
you have to get a.
So you could come to the town and get it without going to CAMA at 200 feet, correct?
Well, you just have to go to CAMA.
But you would, but you don't have to go into a major. That's their magic number, 200, right?
500 trips it to the major.
No, it's still
Major, but 200 for the minor.
Still minor. After 400 becomes a major.
Right. But what happens at 200?
That's when you have to demonstrate that for every 100 feet of length, you get a foot
Right.
of water depth.
So if we go to 200, then they can draw CAM out and let them draw the line then let them go to the variance. After they prove by CAMA that they can get their foot, and then if the variance decides that it's worthwhile, then fine. But, I think 200 feet and then because that's the magic number that starts tripping off stuff, a foot and all. So why don't we go there and then let CAMA go, and then let's see if the variance committee thinks that the lights out there are a great idea. I mean,
The only issue with that though, Jeff, is we already have several that are past that. So why not just make it at 300 and call it a day?
Well, how about if they think that at that particular location,
CAMA's going to deny it after 200.
And if it's 300, we say 300 and they want 400, then they go to variance, and then the lady puts on her waders and she goes out there and she measures.
I just don't see a lot.
But that's the most that CAMA will allow.
Right, I just don't see most people even getting past the 300, personally.
I like 300 myself. I agree with Jeff, 400 is too long.
Well, but see, but here's the other side of it too. Like, I don't want to mess these people up setting pots and nets or any of that either. You know what I mean? That's, to me, more important than somebody having enough water on a bad day to use their boat. But I'm only saying 300 because we already have one at 300. We have another one at 205, 231. Who's the 3617 Windgrass?
That's me.
Okay, so on a northeast wind blowing like it's been for the last month, do you have water where your boat is?
I would say 30 or 40% of the summer, we can't use the boat.
I'm talking in the last month when it's been northeast mainly every day.
It's sand.
So if you have a boat lift, I understand. Can you put your boat down off a boat lift right this second and use it at 231 feet?
Right this second?
Yep.
Today.
Today?
Mhm.
Yes, there's water there now.
Okay.
But just because of the way it is.
Right.
Okay, Council. I'd like to make a motion.
I got one more question, and I haven't paid attention to the variances. I've actually been called a few times from residents in that area, Vaughn Robinson being one of them's a friend of mine, but I don't think he's done anything with it yet. But when people have come in for that, is there a certain number that they've asked for during the variance? Or the people that have called, is there?
Well, the one variance that was issued was for 300. The one that was applied for and then withdrawn was for, I believe, 200. And then the other ones were just conversation, like, you know, wanting to know what the max was, and they didn't really have a number in mind, or that they relate to me anyways.
And that one right there is 287, is that right?
No, that's where you had me pulling one just for an example.
I got you.
Just for, I guess, visual reference, this is a little further south down in KDH, but there's one that's about 300.
Which you're still not going to use in an
There's
argument.
several in that line over
So-
there.
Am I hearing that even with the 400, you're still not getting the right depths?
I think in some places in KDH, probably not, but that's not our concern, right?
Well, not KDH, but let's talk about Kitty Hawk.
I think in Kitty Hawk, I could see right there on the Moore Shore Road area, I could probably see that not, I can see Vaughn probably being in 300 feet not being enough for him, but I think for everybody else, I think that's sufficient. I just think you're gonna have an area or two. We don't have that many.
Again, the 400 is just subjective. It is totally an objective
And
number.
I'm gonna go back to the camel lady. I mean, she's extremely by the book.
She certainly is.
So even if we agree at 300, that doesn't mean you're gonna get 300.
No.
That's right.
So 400 is way too much. No question.
Can we give you up to 200 before they start applying that
At
rule?
1 foot, correct. So if you come in and you apply for 300, Rob, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we're gonna grant you the 200, but she's gonna grant the extra 100.
The way it's currently written, if somebody comes in for a 200 foot, we're going to deny it and send them to.
Well, I understand. Again, let me back up. If 300 was approved, okay, that last 100 feet is on her to make the determination.
The whole 300 would be approved by CAMA, but they would make sure that it met the town zone before
Everything after 200.
they won't even look at a permit unless they know that it meets zoning.
I got you.
They won't look at the application until they know that it meets zoning requirements.
I mean, I may be in the minority. I just think 300 is the number.
Like to make that a motion?
I mean, I not really, but I don't want put it on me, but
Can we meet in the middle at 250? It seems to be we're going 200 to 300.
You already have one at 300.
we already have it. That's why I go to that number.
Well, all those docks are non-conforming at this point.
No, the 300 is approved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
By the variance.
By that and CAMA. Our Board of Adjustments approved it, then CAMA approved it after that.
But how about if the Board of Adjustments had denied it?
Then I think you could probably appeal to CAMA directly.
No, if the Board of Adjustments denies it, then you appeal to the Superior Court.
Oh, that's right. You need to go to see Jerry or something like that. But, excuse me, Judge Tillett. Stand corrected. That is the recourse from there.
If CAMA denies it, then they can appeal to the CRC.
Coastal Resource Commission.
So Rob, question for you on the Board of Adjustment. Can anybody just, if they don't like Kitty Hawk's town code, they just decide to apply for a variance and bypass the entire system that we have in place?
They can, but it doesn't happen often because there's a fairly strict set of findings that the board has to make to grant a variance, dealing with hardships that the existing language creates on a property, like Calvin mentioned height. Like, it's pretty hard to argue a hardship based on height requirement.
I think there's 7 questions.
Yeah,
So by the state, every town board of adjustment has to answer the same.
So what
set
would a
of questions.
hardship of a shorter dock be?
the hardship doesn't have to be shown that it takes away any use of the property. It's worded in our ordinance that if it creates a situation where they can't enjoy the same use of their property as their neighbor, or something similar to that. So that's where it was applied on that one, that, 100 feet for that variance, got like that much water, so you're not being able to enjoy the use of your pier the way your neighbors who have the lawn woods are. We had one a few years ago, a house that was built on J-Jack. You can see it here. Got a variance for the rear yard setback because 25 feet on front and back left them about 5 feet in the middle. And that variance, they had, I think the original variance was done in like 2013 for the house, and they had another building that they were trying to do, and the board of adjustment found that the setback variance applied to the whole lot rather than just where that structure was. So it's, the hardship doesn't rule out any use of the property, just.
I can attest to that because I'm the one that filed that variance. So I know it's
I
pretty.
always thought it was like somebody put a shed and it was a foot too close to somebody and you beg for forgiveness, or like the gentleman said that his roof was 2 inches and he didn't get his variance. He had to chop it off.
You have to get the variance.
And then, that's what I'm saying, but I mean, you had a man build his house too big, and that's a hardship if you ask me, but the variance, they shot him down, he had to chop his roof down.
Part of the ordinance is that the hardship can't be created by the property owner. So if you put your shed too close to the property line, you've eliminated that.
Well, you didn't do a survey.
But if you build your dock and it don't make it too deep for water, same thing.
That's what you get. Right, if somebody built a 300-foot dock.
No, 100 foot, and it didn't make it, the hardship says, hey, guy, it's not long enough.
If someone built a
Should have waited it out.
300-foot pier without having a variance in place, we wouldn't issue a variance. We would cite a violation and make them bring it back into conformity because they created the issue.
I find it hard that a too short a pier goes to a variance to begin with. That's just me. I don't think there's a hardship there. I think you knew when you built, when the law that 100 foot went out to a foot of water, everybody knew that when they built it. It didn't create a hardship down the road. The hardship's been there ever since Morse Shore was created. Matter of fact, it was even worse. So I don't know. I think variance is the wrong place for a pier, me.
And I guess, Councilman Tillett, to get back to your question too, if somebody disagrees with the ordinance, and they have the right to apply for a variance, but I try to explain to them what it entails getting one, and I think that's part of the reason in the 10 years I've been here, we've only had 4 variance requests.
Have they all been docks?
No, just one.
Okay.
I went 4 years as a chairman of the variance committee and never even knew who was on my committee because we did not have an application for a variance.
After I filed a variance for myself on that lot, because I had both those lots, that one in and one on Bay Drive. I sat on the Board of Adjustments myself and never had a meeting, so.
So the 4 we've had been in the past,
I think
3 years?
Except for the 4 that he's had, the one before that was myself in 13.
All right, does anyone want to make a motion?
Anybody go to 250?
I just don't think you can do that when you've got one.
I think 250 is a good number, meet in the middle.
Now, how about the rest of the stuff that's in here that goes with it? If we find 250, how about all the other red here?
That all is the same language that currently exists. So like the prohibition on having fuel dispensing facilities and all that, that's just moving it from special use to permitted use. It also is
Have a cover.
So we haven't discussed that.
And you can't.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
Go
that's
ahead.
okay. You just can't have a covered boat dock, you know.
So this amendment is also not only changing the distance, but moving it from a special use to a permitted use.
right. And my reasoning for that is I'm not aware of any docks or piers that have come for a special use permit either before my time or since. And it just seems like they've got, you know, set standards that review as it would be any other administrative decision. If it is compliant with A through Q, if it's approved. If not, it's denied.
All right, I tell you what, I'm sure I'm gonna make people mad, but I mean, it is what it is. I can't make everybody happy. We already have a pier at 300 feet, so I'm gonna make a motion at 300 feet.
A second.
All right, we got a motion 300 feet in second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we got 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rob. Okay, item 9A, we need to schedule a public hearing for the next meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I move to set a public hearing at the Town Council meeting on November 4th, 2024, to consider the proposed text amendment to Section 42-1 and 42-504.
Thank you, Dylan. Get a second?
Second.
Second. David, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Thank you all. Okay, item 10, old business financial statement. Liliana, you're finally up, my friend.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Good evening, Liliana.
Tonight, I'm presenting the first quarter of the financial report for the current fiscal year, 24-25. I'm going to present the Fund 10, which is our general fund operations, Fund 21, capital reserve, Fund 30, beach nourishment project, and Fund 41, police department, remote building. I'm going to start with the Fund 10, which is operations. In this first quarter, there is not too much remarkable there. We just started fiscal year. Our citizens already have their bills for property taxes, and we start receiving collections in September. I'm going to focus briefly in the tax order, which is our share revenue, sale tax, occupancy tax, and land transfer. What you see here is only the collections distribution from July. There's not too much change from the previous year from the sale tax, but it's a slightly decrease of 21% for the occupancy tax compared to last year. This is a result of what we all know, the share revenue is changing. I will have more solid information in the financial statements in December because we will have July, August, and September distribution. So this is just a preliminary. What you see there is only July collections. Interest earnings, that's another thing that we keep an eye. We all know the interest rates are going to slow down, as the Reserve has announced. So far, we have, for July, August, and September, 145,613. On the expenditure side, our departments start as normal for this first quarter. This is slow expenditures. And currently, our revenues are a little slower than expenses versus a normal trend for this first quarter. The second fund that we're going to talk about is the Fund 30, the beach nourishment. This project has been concluded, but we need to close it in our books. Right now, we're going to transfer $479,900. There are work that were put it there from the reserve 1 year prior we start the project to initiate the design and the permits step. So now that we finished the project, that money is returning back to the Beach Nourishment Fund. The second fund that we're going to talk about tonight is Fund 21, Capital Reserve Fund. The Capital Reserve Fund is part of the general fund. The money in the Capital Reserve is classified as restricted because it's put aside for a specific project or purchase, assets purchase. It's a savings for the future. The fund gets a distribution of interest. The interest that we earn globally, the fund gets a portion of the interest. So at the end of the current fiscal year, on June 30, that fund earned $175,000. In July, I usually do an entry distributing this interest in all the projects by the percentage of participation. Today, I'm suggesting, I'm strongly recommended that we assign this interest to the fire truck purchase, which is one of the most imminent purchases that we need. Currently, we only have $400,000. So if we assign this interest to the fire truck, we will have more. We have received a quote for $961,000 for the fire truck. So that will give us some money there. While this move is an accounting entry and doesn't need a council approval, I want to present it to you for your information and want to make sure that you agree with this entry.
I'm sorry, how much are we moving over for the fire truck purchase again?
$400,000.
No, we're allocating $175,000 of the interest.
Okay.
What I'm proposing is the interest that the fund earned in the fiscal year that we just passed, instead of distributing what we do, I usually do by percentage and participation, we allocate the whole entire interest to the fire truck.
Got it.
Again, that doesn't need a council approval because it's an accounting entry, but I want to present to you for your information and make sure that you all agree with that. Agree?
Do you feel like the departments that you normally divvy this up to will be okay? The funds in those departments where this is normally spread out to, this interest money is normally spread out to those departments, you said?
It's not by departments, it's by projects, by the savings. So as you see now, we have different money put aside for different projects, right? So usually the one that have more participation get the interest earning. But
Those funds are okay not receiving
oh,
this?
yes.
Okay,
Actually, they're all down.
great.
But right now, my colleague and our more, the urgent is to buy, or at least to make the order, because it takes 2 years to build it. So it's $175,000 who help us with that.
So-
That locks us into that price.
That's what I was getting ready to ask.
So Chief Talley he was scheduled for a training that got canceled. So we had pushed off the presentation of the fire truck until November. But if you want to discuss ordering it, you can. It doesn't cost any money. The quote that we got is $961,000. He can answer, he's here actually, so he could answer questions. It would be delivered in 2027, 2028, we think.
So I'm with Councilman Walker. So if we order it now, though, is our price locked in? That's all I
Yes.
want to know.
Yes.
Yes, it would be locked in. Do you have the cover sheet?
I don't think we,
That's okay. As long as, I just want to make sure that price is locked in.
But you don't have to give them any money now. You order it and it stays the same price. Is that right?
Yes.
And this is on the November agenda because of.
unless you decide to do it now.
No, I can wait till November. I just wanted to make sure it was locked in.
Once we accept the vehicle and it's built to specification, we have 30 days to pay the cost of the truck, that is the proposed cost. Now, given in the next 3 years, if they come up with new federal guidelines on emissions controls or anything like that, that will be added to this price, because that's
right. But that's out of everybody's control, though.
we're going to eat that cost based on that federal guideline, not the manufacturer.
Right.
Chief, they don't require a deposit?
They don't.
They don't?
Now,
We'll
the last one,
we'll take
we
two.
didn't have
And
to.
to be honest with you, if it's not built to our specification, we don't have to take it. So.
Well, we've done that before.
Yeah.
Carry on.
So just for the record, unless there's a federal regulation guideline change, the price will, which would be understandable. I mean, nobody has control over that. That is our price, right? We have 30 days to give them, what was it again, 30 days after we order it?
After they get it, after we get it.
Oh, after you get it, even better.
We accept it.
Got it, okay. That's.
So at this point, if we were to order the truck today, just for an example, it's gonna take 32 to 36 months turnaround time.
Because the other one's what, 2 years old that we got before now, maybe?
Yeah, just over 2 years. So this is proposing for a 2027 fire truck. But they're stating that most likely the way things are going, it's gonna be probably pushed into 2028.
And I know you're going into this further in November, but that truck will be very similar, if not just like the one you just got, right?
It's the same exact specification. The only difference is that there has been some emission standard changes, so the motor will be different, and that's one of the price increases is the motor. So everything else, it'll be the same truck.
I'm good. I just want to make sure it's locked in. I'm happy to discuss more in November, but for tonight, I'm fine.
I think it's a wise allocation.
Okay, in the same lines, as you can see,
Thank you, Chief.
July, August, and September, for this current fiscal year, we already have earned $53,000 in interest. Would you agree that I'll continue doing that, allocating this interest to the fire truck?
On top of the 175?
Yeah. So the fund is still earning, but I only do the transfer at the end of the fiscal year. Oh, can be for further discussion.
Yeah, I'd rather save that for November.
Okay.
And keep in mind, it is just a percentage. Is
Right.
it $55,000 for the capital reserve fund or a total of $55,000?
Right now, is as September, the total fund have earned $53,000. I have not made the distribution because again, I do that distribution at the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah, 53, 327.22.
Yep.
So what I present initially is what we earned in the last fiscal year to put it straight to the truck, 175.
I'll rather wait till November. to discuss it
Okay,
further.
that's fine.
Sure. Okay. Last, the Fund 41, Police Department remodeling. The remodeling is moving along. We have paid 2 invoices to the contractor, and they have submitted 3 change orders, so we are really on the schedule now. As you can see in this picture, which was taken 2 days ago, they're working on the roof, the siding, the concrete in the future lobby is already placed. And financially, we have $3,630,000 as today.
Okay, any questions?
Any questions?
Liliana? Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liliana.
Good job.
Before I forget, I do want to go back to the pier for the record. I'm going to read the motion proper because I'm not trying to be Casey, but it wasn't a proper motion. I want to go back to that. I move to approve the text amendment to section 42-360. Town Council has found this proposal to be consistent with the town's adopted land use plan for the 300 feet on the pier.
All right, second.
Second.
Second, Mr. All. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Casey must have texted you.
No, I just,
Thank you, Liliana.
I did pass the LSAT, I just decided not to go further.
All right, sidewalk project, I think is gonna shock us all. It did me when I first heard about it. But, so we need to discuss that and make a decision.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Audience. We've been talking about this NCDOT sidewalk program for quite some time, and we were so excited when it came up on, I think it's been on their list for 10 years, and we were so excited when it finally came about. And this sidewalk actually will connect Cypress Knee Trail right there by the Walmart to Kill Double Hill sidewalk at Cameron Street. The original estimate that we received was $1.6 million. In May, the town council authorized a payment of $320,000 to NCDOT, which was 20% of the project, which is the town's share. In July, the town went with NCDOT and the engineers, and we reviewed the project. And then in August, we received a new estimate of $7.2 million. So 70% increase. $7.2 million would mean that the town's new contribution is $1,440,000. With the funds already paid, the town would owe an additional $1.12 million.
That does not include the tourism board's contribution, correct?
Correct, I'm getting to that. How did you get your phone to go? There we go. Okay. NCDOT has apologized profusely and used the words gross underestimation of their costs. Keep in mind that they are on the hook. I mean, they have to come with 80% of this project. And we're still not sure if they can come up with the money to do this. They want us to commit, and then they will seek funding in December at their budget meeting. So let's go back to so our additional, in addition to the $320 we've already sent, is $1,120,000. As Councilman Hahn said, when this project is totally completed, we will receive a reimbursement from the tourism board of $400,000. So that does decrease our bit a little bit.
Which, not to interrupt you, but I think the initial request from the town of Kitty Hawk was $500,000. And there wasn't enough adequate invoicing at the time, so we only allocated 400 back, which sounds weird. We gave 400 back to us. But there was conversation about that extra 100,000 once all the invoicing was complete.
Okay.
Just FYI. So I mean, I know that doesn't really move the needle in the number, but it's 100 grand's 100 grand.
It is. It is. So some of the reasons that they said the price was because they were using old numbers, because this has been on their list for 10 years. Increased costs in mobilization and surveying, increased costs in excavation and borrow dirt, I guess. Erosion control, traffic control, having a contingency and construction oversight. We have inquired with them about delaying the project. If we do, we get off the list and start all over again. We've talked about doing it in phases, and that's not something we could do one phase, but then you'd never get back on the list for phase 2. We have talked to the tourism board about initially giving us additional money, but that's not a possibility, maybe at the end, like you said. We've also been exploring state and federal grants. There's nothing that's a sure thing, so we think that this is an invaluable community asset, and it's important for our citizens and visitor safety. The staff does recommend moving forward with this if you guys feel that you want to. Because of all the no's I've been getting, I've been waiting for the final numbers for our fiscal year. Last year, June 2023, we ended the year with an unassigned fund balance of $3.7 million. This year, June 2024, we are ending the year with $4.7 million. So it's been a substantial increase, mostly due to the interest income and then just good stewardship from our department heads and spending their money. We have already spent $212,000 in this fiscal year from the unassigned fund balance for the contingency fund at the police building. That leaves us with $4.5 million in unassigned fund balance. That's not what's in capital reserve, that's not what's in our emergency fund, that is unassigned money. If we move forward with the 1.12 million from our unassigned fund balance and proceed with the project, funding it ourselves, we will end up with $3.3,089,818 in the general fund.
Left over.
So not too much lower than last year.
Right. So I know I've been talking a lot. I think people's safety is paramount. I mean, I've walked those roads a long time, and there's nothing. Once you get past Kitty Hawk Estates, there's nothing safe about that all the way through the rest of the bypass. So, me personally, I'm in support of continuing moving forward. And who was the DOT contact you were speaking to?
John Abel and I can't think of the other guy's names. He has a first name and the last name will start with B.
Well, will you email it to me, please? But John Abel, definitely one of the engineers.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in full support too, and Jeff, as you know, we've been telling people a long time about the exciting sidewalk coming us a lot of money. And it kind of, when Melody told me, I said, oh no. DOT needs to know if we want to proceed before they tell us what they're going to do, as Melody said. With everything that's going on in Western North Carolina, I can see DOT coming back and saying, we don't have the money for it. Rightly so. Rightly so. But they need an answer from us.
Yes.
Well, then I think we at least give them an answer. And if they say they don't have it in the budget, they don't have it in the budget.
There's nothing more that we can do after that.
No, I agree.
It's better than us coming up with the $7 million.
I agree. We've been promising this to our citizens for a long time. They've said in surveys they wanted it, and
it's just the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do. If we've got the money, it's a big decision to make. Jeff, I see you shaking your head.
Liliana?
We need to know.
All right.
Another very important point that they addressed to us is if we abandon the project and we go back to the waiting list. So most likely, as you said, Mr. Hines, we probably said we don't have the budget, but we were still on the list as a priority. So we don't want to lose the spot. We wait for this 10 years to be in the list to be allocated. So if we abandon and say we're not committed, bye-bye Kitty Hawk, next one on the list.
If we stop now and pick up later, the price is going to be higher than it is now.
It's just like the Mid-Currituck Bridge.
It's committing that million, and if you have the funding, we move forward. If you not, we're still on the list.
We'll get our money back.
There, that was it. Do we get our money back if they abandon the project?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. Is this, we don't have to put this money up front. They just want an answer, correct?
We did already put up the 300.
300, but we don't have to put up the,
I would say if their funding goes through, then we would need to give them our money fairly quickly.
At that point.
but at that point in time.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Now my question is, after we do this, our unassigned fund is basically about what it was last year? Is that what you're telling me? So, I mean, a little bit of difference, but, okay. So we're not
We still
dipping down?
have the $2.5 million that we always keep, right? We'll still have that on the side.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with this.
It's the importance of it, that's the weighing part of this. But, you know, anybody has to agree that from 1,600,000 to 7,200,000 feels like I've been bamboozled here a little bit.
Exactly.
But, so I can't help but feel that way. And so, okay.
I want you guys to know, though, that we still have some unfinished business with the police department.
That's what I know.
We have furniture and fixtures that we're bidding out, and we'll have to move that. I mean, everything right now with the police department is on budget. We've not had huge amounts of unforeseen things, and they're moving right along. But
When do you expect maybe to hear from them?
December.
Okay, they'll make up their mind in December if they're going to go with this project or not.
But we have to give them a commitment before that, or they're
Before
going to
they go
abandon.
and advocate for us.
Okay,
for
okay,
the
I get,
project.
okay.
And then we'll talk about that next month.
So if this project goes through and we allocate the money for that, and that money is what's left in our remaining fund balance, what pays for the fire truck when that needs to be paid?
The capital reserve.
Not that money?
Right.
So what I do,
We're already setting aside for that in the budget.
I
And we
will
continue to
do
keep
is
adding
if
to
we
it.
approve this, I will move that money to the capital reserve fund and you will see in line project. for the-
So in 2 years, with the interest allocation we talked about tonight and 200 a year, we ought to be able to pay for that truck by the time it comes around.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
And not touch that money.
Correct.
That's the plan.
Okay. I like that plan.
Really, we have to keep that about that much.
Willie, I apologize to you before I ask this question, but is there anything that our public works can do to increase that amount of money? I apologize, Willie. I'm so sorry that I have to ask.
Well, if he could get his shop built,
We just got it.
then
Well, it was just a thought.
All right, council, we need to give them an answer. You want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we,
It's right here.
I move to support the DOT sidewalk project by allocating $1.12 million from the unassigned fund balance to cover the town's portion of the project.
Second.
A motion made by David, second by Charlotte. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. Very good.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Melody. Great job. Thank you. Okay, item 11, new business, planning subdivision 4324 Corinda Lane. Rob, would you come up? And Chief Tally, at some point, I've got a question for you pertaining to this too.
As you mentioned, this is a proposal that came in for a subdivision of 4324 Corinda Lane. The plat outlines a proposal to subdivide one existing parcel that totals 2.962 acres on the west side of Corinda Lane. They're at the intersection of West Kitty Hawk Road into 5 lots. No new roads or road expansions or other infrastructure are being proposed as part of this subdivision. Real quick, before I go through some of the specifics in the proposal, I just want to highlight at the planning board review, there was several concerns that were voiced. I wanted to try to address some of that as it relates to the ordinance. As you all know, subdivision reviews are administrative decisions, so we're basing decisions on standards in the subdivision and zoning ordinance. So one of the common comments that we've heard is too dense, too many parcels for that area. As you can see in the staff report, each proposed lot meets the 15,000 square feet of continuous, and connected uplands, as well as the 2 dwellings or parcels per acre. Flooding is definitely a concern in that area. It's delineated on the subdivision plat, and if you'd like, I can pull up the flood map in a minute here. The parcel does contain areas within the special flood hazard area, the AE zone, as well as X zones. That AE flood zone indicates that there's a 1% annual chance of flooding and a 26% chance of flooding over the 30-year mortgage. Neither the town zoning, subdivision, or flood damage prevention ordinance prohibits building or subdividing within a special flood hazard area. Some septic concerns, which again, valid concerns have come up. That's all done through the county health department, septic permitting. The zoning and subdivision ordinance do not require septic approval prior to approval of a subdivision. There's actually a line in the subdivision ordinance that requires a disclosure statement on final plats to state that approval of this subdivision does not guarantee septic approval on any individual lot. That's section 38-63K. One of the comments that came up at the planning board dealt with the National Historic Preservation Act, a Section 106 review. I had to reach out to the Army Corps of Engineers on this one. The feedback that I received from our regional representative is that when an Army Corps permit or other federal permit is required, they would conduct a Section 106 review and coordinate with the State Historic Preservation Office if needed. Section 106 of the NHPA applies to any project requiring federal approval, such as a Army Corps permit, or that receives federal funding. There's no filling or disturbance being proposed at this point, so there are no federal permits required at this point. If the subdivision is approved and if an applicant or owner does want to fill any of the wetlands, that would go to the Army Corps of Engineers, and then that would initiate that Section 106 review. Again, traffic has been brought up. The main concern that I've heard is that making that turn from Corinda onto West Kitty Hawk Road can be difficult, the speed of people coming down Kitty Hawk Road. The proposal was sent to DOT. They did not relay any concerns, and I guess the concern would be not as much the division, because the traffic hazard is coming down Kitty Hawk Road, but you would be adding, cars from 5 more lots onto Kitty Hawk Road, making that turn. Again, there's nothing in our ordinance that deals with that. That would be something under DOT review, and they did not highlight anything in their response to. Water access was another comment that was heard. I did send the plat over to William Nash at the Dare County Water Department, and he indicated that lots A, B, C, and E would be allowed to tie into the water line that runs down Kitty Hawk Road. They're getting away from the practice of allowing, I think he called it a spaghetti line, where it was a water line running through private property to access another property. So he indicated that Lot D would have to be reliant on a well. They wouldn't permit tying in from Kitty Hawk Road on there. So it was correct that there is no water line that runs down Corinda Lane. Just noticed in your packet you received the revised plat. This is the plat that was presented to the planning board. One comment that was received from the fire department was that the 15-foot access to Lot E from Corinda Lane be widened to 20 feet. In the revised plat, you can see the applicant has included not changed the actual property lines, but included a 5-foot wide access easement to allow a total of 20 feet coming through there, and that was to ensure that the fire apparatus would have the width to get to Lot E. That kind of highlights the concerns. You've got the specific standards there in front of you. I trust everyone's had a chance to kind of go through them. I'll go over the planning board, their recommended conditions of approval, with the wetland certification, be added to the plat. That has been handled. Miscellaneous sheds and other structures that were indicated on the initial plat be removed from setbacks prior to the presentation of the preliminary/final plat to council. That has been reflected on the plat that you have, and before anything would be recorded, that would be field verified. We'd go out and ensure that those encroaching sheds were removed from setbacks. And then the documentation, I didn't highlight that. Corinda Lane is a state-maintained right-of-way, and in the section of this parcel, NCDOT does not own Corinda Lane. They have an easement, I guess a maintenance easement with the owner. That the owner retained ownership, but DOT is permitted to go in there and maintain, repave the road when necessary. So that documentation, both from DOT and from the attorney representing the applicant, verifying that is in the record as well. Additional staff recommended condition of approval is that disclaimer noting that approval of the subdivision does not guarantee septic approval on any individual lot be added to the plat as well before getting any kind of signatures or being recorded. That, I will turn it over to the council for any questions. The applicant is here on hand for any questions that I might not be able to answer as well.
All right, Rob, Council, if you don't mind, let me, Chief Talley, would you come up, please, sir? Rob, you touched on fire protection and Chief Talley's recommendation.
That actually came from Deputy Chief
Deputy
Rogers.
Chief Rogers has recommended access to be widened to 20 feet. Mr. Richard brought up a concern earlier tonight in public comment, and a very good concern about fire protection on Corinda Lane in this subdivision. He had a concern about it. Can you tell us about fire protection there?
Yeah, for this type of occupancy, our main concerns is access and water supply. You can see we addressed the access portion of it, just to make sure that our fire apparatus can get in there. This was some time ago when we looked at this. But, in terms of water supply, we actually have an adequate water supply. The hydrant that is there on Kitty Hawk Road, basically at the intersection of Kitty Hawk and Corinda, it's what's considered a green top, which is greater than 1,000 gallons a minute that we can get out of that hydrant, which is adequate. That's the top of it. What we look for is at least a green or higher. That's what we try to get. Now, and the additional construction that's going in, will it reduce water supply? That's something that they're going to have to run their numbers through the water department to determine those. I would say that, and with this few of properties, I don't know if you'll be able to see a drop to where we would notice it. But that's a question for the water department.
Where is that nearest hydrant?
It's just west of Corinda Lane on Kitty Hawk Road. Basically, it's at the corner of Corinda and Kitty Hawk Road.
Okay.
Would putting a condition on there of adding another hydrant somewhere back towards, I don't know, in between C and E somewhere, would that help, or would that not really matter with you having a green top hydrant already in place? Would that be excessive, I guess is what I'm asking, to have another hydrant put in?
We could, but it's within the 1,000 feet.
Right.
We usually, and I think it's actually less. We look at 1,000 feet because that's our capabilities, but I actually think, I don't know if you know the number there.
I think it's less than that.
I think it's a lot less than that,
Yeah.
but we look at it from 1,000 feet, and it's well within that, or within that. Let's put it that way.
So really, I mean, even with that protocol in place, it's really kind of pointless.
Yeah, I don't think in terms of what the code says that we can enforce it. We can ask for it, but that's going to be expense at the builder.
No, of course it would be, for sure. Yeah.
Any more questions for Chief? I've got some questions for Rob. If not, Chief is here.
Not for Chief.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Thank you. Very much, very much. Rob, we've got a text amendment in place, this real recent text amendment that has been revised twice. It talks about continuous, contiguous, and connected, correct?
Correct.
Is this subdivision continuous, contiguous, and connected?
Yes. One of the illustrations I had in the packet showed where the minimum lot size was being measured, and you can see the note on the plats where it says, like for example, lot D says the total area of 23,026 square feet. Total uplands area is 18,509 square feet. And then below that, it has the uplands less the right of way at 15,029 square feet. So that's indicating that from the edge of the Corinda Lane right of way, I guess the western edge, there beyond meets that 15,000 square feet. So it's got a little over 18,500 square feet of total uplands, but that includes the road and the upland area on the other side of the road, but that is not being counted towards the minimum lot size.
Okay.
But it's still making it about 10 square feet.
Correct, all of them meet the minimum, the 15,000 square feet of contiguous, and connected uplands.
And what we have here before us, subdivision reviews on administrative decision. If all ordinance requirements are met, the applicant is entitled to approval. My question, have all the ordinance requirements been met?
In my review, they have.
Okay, I don't have any further questions.
Rob, I've got a question about the right-of-way not being turned over to the state on this particular parent parcel.
Right.
Is now the appropriate time to encourage that gets turned over to the state?
I think that would be a conversation between the owner and DOT. The current easement or maintenance easement, I guess, was agreed upon by the previous owner, and it just runs concurrently with the land. So I don't know that it would be our place to make that.
That's not a requirement from our ordinance to ensure?
No, it's not.
The easement.
Because it is a DOT right-of-way.
Right.
And it's, the new subdivision is fronting a DOT right-of-way.
Correct, yes.
Which runs consistent with the land, like a deed restriction.
And my second question, Rob, and I talked to you about this before the meeting. I have concerns on Lot E being labeled as a flag lot, which our town code prohibits.
Right. So the way our ordinance defines flag lots is a lot with a narrow strip of land that widens out to meet the, or, let me pull the ordinance up here.
Well, it looks like a flagpole.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. But,
Panhandle, flag lot.
So my reasoning for not looking at Lot E as a flag lot is because on the western edge of it, even though it's gaining access through Corinda Lane, through that 15-foot wide strip, the western side of the property has around 150 feet of road frontage on West Kitty Hawk Road. There's nothing in our ordinance saying that it has to access the lot from where it meets that road frontage requirement. So in my mind, the road frontage requirements met on Kitty Hawk Road, and that 15-foot wide section to Corinda was just provided as a means to gain access, to avoid having to either, as we talked about earlier, if that weren't there, it could be achieved with an access easement through Lot D, or even applying for a permit for the Army Corps to fill wetlands to access on West Kitty Hawk Road.
So the flagpole portion of this flag lot could be removed, and that lot still could be proposed as it is?
Correct, because it still has road frontage on Kitty Hawk Road.
And in your opinion, in that case, it's not classified as a flag lot?
Correct, and I'm not viewing it as a flag lot as it is, because if that 15-foot wide section were the only road frontage that it had, if it were landlocked on the backside of it, then I would agree 100% as a flag lot and would not be permitted. But since it has that pretty wide area of road frontage along Kitty Hawk Road, I think that takes care of that requirement in my mind.
Well, it's also not part of the lot, really. It's an easement.
Well, no, this is shown as part of the lot.
No, I understand, but that's where you're adding the 5-foot wide access.
Yes, but there's 15 feet that's part of Lot E, and then a 5-foot wide easement on Lot D that covers the fire department comment.
Which creates an easement to get to E.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And you would think, Casey, our town attorney, would agree with that interpretation as well?
Yes, I actually, before this went to the planning board, whenever I have some, proposals like this, if there may be some kind of interpretation question, I usually reach out to him and get his input on it as well, and he concurred with that.
And it talks about Lot E having frontage on Corinda Lane to provide access to that 15 feet. So, any more questions, Dylan?
That's all I have right now.
David? Jeff?
Not for Rob.
So we have 3 lots, or 4 lots that are on public water. And then we have 1 that's on a well.
Correct.
And all the rest of the houses down Corinda Lane, are they all on wells?
I don't have that information. I think some of them may have water lines coming from Kitty Hawk Road, or what the county referred to as the spaghetti lines, but I don't have information.
This
on-
looks
on
like
all of
if
them.
it was one there, this lot would have been put on there as well. I just figured the rest of them were on wells.
All right, any more questions, excuse me, for Rob? Okay, thank you, Rob. Thank you, Rob. All right, discussion, council. There's somebody got a lot to say, that's good.
Okay. Once again, I'm going back to the land use plan. I keep doing it over and over. I really don't think when, and I've said this over and over, that when we set these standards of total area, even though continuous, contiguous, and all that applies here, this is different than if we were in the upper part of Kitty Hawk up on Veterans where we are, or somewhere when it's all upland and flat field, or like a foreman's building. This isn't. This is a fragile area, of low area. The impacts of some of this could cause significant flooding to their neighbors on all sides. I think it's a little bit much. Myself, I know it fits everything. It's been brought up. It might be time for us back in Kitty Hawk Village to maybe go looking at these lot sizes or something, because it makes it hard for the council to vote something down that meets all the requirements other than the CAMA land use plan, which I don't feel this meets in any kind of way. So I don't think it's in harmony with the nature. I believe it's going to cause hardships on some of the neighbors. But other than that, it fits. So
Thank you,
that's
Jeff.
just my discussion.
Jeff, Charlotte?
I'm with Jeff. I know there's a lot, I've listened, I didn't fall on deaf ears, what you had to say about it, but our hands are tied if it meets the town code. And we tried our best to make it so that we wouldn't have this problem, but now we have it again. So.
Dylan?
I agree with what's been said.
I know you're right across the road there.
I think if we don't like this, then we, the people of Kitty Hawk, need to change the ordinance that we have so we can stand by what we want to see as a community. But this in front of us meets our current ordinance.
I agree with you 100%, but a text amendment came before this council, was adopted by this council pertaining to this same piece of property, and we adopted it.
Understood.
Now we're saying it's not.
But I didn't vote for that.
It's not. But
I voted against that last
I know you-
motion, so
The
I'm
thing,
sticking to
the thing
mine.
about it is, though, is I'm gonna stand beside everybody else's comments. I agree. I personally look at these a lot, and I know you do too. I don't see anything on here that gives us any grounds to say no. Okay? But that being said, then maybe it is time that we look into making lot sizes back there bigger, or doing something to prevent. Clearly this works today, but doesn't mean it is going to continue to work.
Yeah.
Right? As things change. So maybe we need to go back in, and I don't know if that's staff directed or how we do that, but how do we do that?
Yeah, no, so.
Because I don't like it,
starts
but it
with-
works.
It starts with a text amendment, to identify, what we feel is not what we want to see back, or, what's wrong with what's being built back there. The main things I've been hearing, both with this one and the West Village subdivision, is there's too many lots, too dense of development. So I think the two main things we look at would be the the density requirements. Right now, it's 2 dwellings per acre. Maybe we want it to be 1 dwelling per acre. Maybe 1 dwelling per 2 acres. You know, that's up for discussion. And then the minimum lot size. You know, we've got the Kitty Hawk Woods district that goes along Kitty Hawk, or the Woods Road, sorry, that has a minimum lot size of 80,000 square feet of upland. We could look at something like that for the village. But if council wants me to start working towards something like that, I will.
Well, see, I think we should 80,000 square as an example, though. I mean, that's almost 2 acres. I mean, okay.
Other areas in town.
You're right. It's got to be reasonable, but
Sure.
That's definitely something we could let Rob take a
My
look
thing
at.
is, you know, these numbers work in certain areas. They just don't work in environmentally fragile areas and flooding areas. They just don't fit.
And a lot of that is the village residential district, so that, you know, if you want me to look at different density requirements or what have you, I'll apply it to VR1 districts, you know, not necessarily over here or between the highways. Not that there's much stuff to do.
I think that's what we need to do.
Got to do something.
Yep.
I mean, this is
I
good.
mean,
I'm not happy if it was 4 lots.
Oh, me too.
I mean, I'd be happy if it was 3, but the fact of the matter is, it works.
It meets what we have currently.
Even though I don't like this, it fits everything that we have. So how do you tell it no?
So our hands are tied.
All of our hands are tied, if you want to get technical.
And I don't like it.
So the only way I know to do is that let's start digging into and start with environmental friendly. We all know where they are, and let's not let this happen again.
Agreed. Any further discussion? Good discussion. Anybody like to entertain a motion? Folks, I'll do it. We don't have any choice here, I'm sorry. I move to approve the preliminary final plat for 4234 Corunda Lane as shown on the submitted plat. You'll have a second. Second by Strawley. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we've got 4 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you all. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, council.
That's the thing about this, it's no fun.
All right, time manager, Melody?
Yes. So, progress continues on the police building. Concrete slab for the new addition, as well as the canopy overhangs have been poured. The shingle roof replacement is nearly completed, and the team is in the process of framing interior walls and drywall work. In the next several weeks, the walls in the new construction will go up, and the plumbing, mechanical, and electrical work will be complete. They will fabricate new windows and then run the new siding up to the window. The project remains on schedule, on budget, and there have been no safety events at the site. I know.
Yeah.
On Saturday, October the 12th, which is this coming Saturday, between 10 and noon, we're having our community cleanup. We're still registering volunteers and would love to see everyone out helping. We will conclude the event with an old-fashioned cookout with burgers and hot dogs. I'm told Willie is the grill master. And if you want to register or need more information, visit the town's website. The police have started the Faith in Blue initiative this month. The Kitty Hawk Police Department is partnering with our 5 local Kitty Hawk churches, Kitty Hawk Baptist Church, Lighthouse Church, Holy Redeemer of the Sea Catholic Parish, Kitty Hawk United Methodist Church, and the Unitarian Universalist Congregation in support of the National Faith in Blue initiative. Each church, plus town locations here at Town Hall, The police department and fire rescue are collecting non-perishable food donations through October 20th. Food will be distributed on October 23rd at the Kitty Hawk Baptist Church Fall Festival. I'm hoping that you will join me in congratulating one of our most famous police officers, Corey Morris, as the latest officer of the quarter. Officer Morris has established an excellent reputation throughout our town, and he exemplifies community policing. We are extremely excited to be hosting our first ever community movie night here at Town Hall on October 24th at 6:30. This is an outdoor, family-friendly, free event. Just bring your chairs and come watch Hocus Pocus with your families, friends, and neighbors. And fall chipping begins next Monday, October 14th. Please have your vegetative debris in the right-of-way before next Monday. Again, visit the town's website for your guidelines. The bathhouse will close for the season on October 28th. And lastly, our next town council meeting is on the eve of our election. So it will begin at 5:00 p.m. So the election folks can come in and get set up. So November 4th, 5:00 p.m. That's all.
Thank you, Melody. Great report. And Casey is not here. Casey is sick tonight, in case anybody's wondering. Town Council, Ms. Charlotte.
Yes, this happens to be Fire Prevention Week. And I would like to remind everybody to check your batteries and your smoke detectors. And I want to thank Chief Talley and his fire department for all they do for us. I know you were at Kitty Hawk School today, and you were maybe at Home Depot this week. Is that right? So everything you do in our community brings us all closer together. And I really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you. And I'm sick about the vote we had to make tonight, but I didn't think we could do anything else.
Thank you, Charlotte. Jeff?
Yes, I'd like to again thank Lee Nettles and Jeff for being here from the Outer Banks Visitors Bureau. They contributed a lot to our community here, and I'd like to thank them for coming tonight and shedding the light on the respect our area. Let's see. I'd also like to congratulate Corey, and he is a man of the town. I seen him all over. Yeah. And again, I'm going to Chief Talley. I spent a lot of time over at the beach this summer. It was hot. And, the lifeguard service did a fantastic job. They were polite. I watched them when they were getting ready to get off to advise people they were leaving to watch their kids a little bit better. And it was a first-class operation, and I really appreciate the job that was done by all your lifeguards and you as in charge. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you.
He did.
Thank you very much, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Jeff. Dylan?
Well, I'm going to be a broken record tonight and say thanks again to the fire department and police department and ocean rescue, all of the staff for doing a fantastic job as well. Congratulate Officer Morris and thank him for providing service to the town like he does. And one last thing too, just echoing what the mayor said at the beginning of the meeting, sharing our thoughts and prayers with our neighbors out west, and thanking everybody who's put forth efforts to help out with that tragedy. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Dylan. David?
I was cleaning up some water over here. But, I do want to congratulate Officer Morris. I think he's an incredible asset to the police department. And also, as Councilman Walker said, I'm going to lose a little sleep tonight over the whole Corinda Lane thing. I don't like it, and if the applicant's here, it is what it is. I don't like it. But when your hands are tied, your hands are tied. It reminds me kind of the candy store. Yeah, same thing, different location. I know it's not apples to apples, but, you know, when it fits, it fits. So I'm very much wanting Rob to start as soon as possible on, start with the environmental areas, you know, first. Maybe you can get some help from the AEC, I don't know. But I want to reiterate that it reminds me of the subdivision we had to approve in Wine Cheese a couple years ago. Every board member beside me said if they could turn it down, they could, they would. And you can't. So what do? We change it. Doesn't happen again. So that's where I'm at with that. Other than that, I've talked way more than enough tonight, so I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
One more thing.
All right.
And if you're going to change your smoke detector batteries, go ahead and switch to one that's also carbon monoxide.
Got one of those too.
It's actually a new state building code. If you get a permit, you're supposed to change those out, actually. But anyway, that's all for me.
Just thank everybody, thank all staff. Liliana, great job tonight, as usual. And next month, Chief, we're going to talk about a fire truck. So we can go ahead and give you the okay on that. Get the ball rolling. Thank everybody that spoke tonight. Thank everybody that was here. It was a long night, but well worth it. So that's all I've got. Anything else, anybody?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second. We are adjourned.